What's good, champions? Welcome to Ben Plays Godtear. Today we'll be going over a tabletop simulator primer. Tabletop simulator is a common way to play Godtear online, which is great because it allows you to play even more of this fantastic game when you're not able to get together over the table. So, tabletop simulator. What is tabletop simulator, or TTS? So, tabletop simulator is a physics engine, so it allows players to both create and play tabletop games in this multiplayer physics sandbox. And TTS is available as a one-time purchase for $20 on Steam. For anyone not familiar, Steam is a video game distribution kind of framework or storefront. Steam itself is free, and it gives you access to a lot of different indie games or different applications as kind of a consistent way of being able to find and purchase those pieces of software. Godtear has a mod for Tabletop Simulator created by Mighty Fine Pants, one of the amazing community members here within Godtear. And I've got some links on here that follow through with how to install Tabletop Simulator, how to subscribe to the Godtear through round variant mod. That's the one that Mighty Fine Pants creates. As a side note, there is another mod available that has not been kept up quite as recently as the 3-round variant, and so that's the one that you want to be looking for. All these links will be available in the video description. So now for a really quick demo and tips. So I'm going to switch over here to Tabletop Simulator, which I've got open. And the first tip that I'm going to very, very heavily recommend, it improved my quality of life by quite a bit, is as soon as you start up Tabletop Simulator, go in here to the settings. We're going to go to the sound tab and change this main menu volume all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to turn it up, and every time you log in, you get to listen to this nice music while you're getting ready to start for a game. Kind of nice to have that off. So this was something that took me a little bit of while to figure out, so I wanted to share it with all of you. So now that we're done with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a game. And you can create both single or multiplayer. For kind of this demo, I'm just going to create a single player game. And you can see under here under Workshop that I am subscribed to this Godtear 3-round variants. This is that mod that we talked about prior. So I'm going to go ahead and load into this. And this is going to set up this kind of physics engine, this space that has all of the different Godtear pieces. And the first thing that we kind of want to understand when we're looking at Tabletop Simulator is just how to navigate. And so we can do that with the camera. So when I hold the middle mouse button on my mouse, and drag it around, I can pan kind of side to side and change the kind of positioning of the camera. If I hold my right mouse button and do the same, I can change the angle, the viewing angles of this table. So for those people that maybe play on a trackpad or don't have a mouse handy, there's also keyboard shortcuts. So W, A, S, D are going to be the pan keys, and then your left, right, up, down keys are going to be how you change those angles. So another really, really helpful setting here is I'm going to make 2 changes. Up here on this rotation degrees, it defaults to 15. I really like setting mine to 90 because when using the Godtear mod here, there's very, very few things that you ever need to rotate other than those 90 degrees. And then set this lift height all the way down to the bottom. I'll fix this back to 90. And what this lift height changes here is I'm going to zoom in, which you can use either the mouse scroll or the 2-finger scroll on a trackpad. And so if I just grab a piece here, I'm just going to steal Finvar's, you can see that where I drag it and where it ends up is very, very close. By default, this lift height is set up a little bit closer here. So when I click on something, it lifts. And now when I drop it, I kind of have to guess a little bit more on where it's going to fall. So for this Godtear mod, having a really low lift height makes it really easy to know exactly where you're placing that piece. All right, so now we're kind of getting ready to get going with the game. So I'm just using my WASD to kind of pan around. I'm going to grab one of these dashboards that has all of the cards and pieces that I need. So I'm going to be careful not to click on a single card and left click and drag, because then I'll just move the card. I'm going to click right on this dashboard. So when I click on this, now I'm moving the entire dashboard here. I can press E, and that's going to rotate it clockwise, or I can press Q, and that's going to rotate it counterclockwise. And as long as I'm grabbing this entire dashboard, it's going to do that nice rotation. If instead I select everything and grab it and try to do the same thing, now that rotation's all, oh, never mind, that's working correctly. Ignore me. So that left click drag now allows me to move this over kind of into my play space. The next thing that we need to know in Godtear, right, is how are we going to roll? How do we roll dice? This box here has a collection of dice that I can pull in. I can select the numbers that I want, and now I'm going to hit R, and that's going to roll the dice. I can hit R a couple times to get that nice heavy roll, or just once for a randomized kind of a little bit faster roll. And that's how we're going to be using the dice here in this mod. Additionally, there's some other commands. We have our scenario deck here. So if we wanted to pick a random scenario, we can also press the R here. And when you're looking at decks of cards in Tabletop Simulator, that's going to shuffle those decks. So here I'm shuffling those decks. And now when I grab the top card, this is going to be a random scenario. Now this is the back, so that's not helping me very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit F to flip that card over and see, oh, this is the change scenario. So when you're looking at any of these cards and you kind of want to do that zoom in, you can press the Alt, or if you're on a Mac, Option button, and that's going to show you kind of in a much larger zoom what's on that card. So here it's change. I'm just going to drag this over onto the handy dandy setup scenario and click the button, and that's going to automatically set up this whole scenario for me. So what you'll notice here is that these hexes I can't move them, and sometimes there are shapers that can move hexes. Sometimes, at the end of change, scenarios allow you to move them. And so what I can do is press L to lock or unlock these hexes. A really, really handy trick is once you have all of your champions set up, you likely want to lock these dashboards. So when I lock this dashboard now, as I'm dragging and selecting and trying to pull things over, right, I'm never going to accidentally grab that dashboard. Sometimes what will happen is when I mean to grab this banner and I grabbed this before, and now I'm accidentally grabbing this. But when I lock this, I can no longer select or move. And again, that's L. Something else that you often want to do is maybe I'm in the plot phase, but I want to look and see what a champion's abilities are in the clash phase. So when I'm pressing that Alt or Option button and hold down Shift, that's going to flip that over to the back side of the card. And that's going to allow me to really quickly reference what abilities and skills a champion or follower has in both phases of the game. Similar to flipping over these scenario cards, I can use F to indicate when champions and followers have gone, or F whenever I want to indicate that an ultimate ability has been used. These health trackers are really handy, right? We can see Titus starts with 5. You can either right mouse button click here and set the state of these, or what I like to do is just press number 5 on my keypad to set that to 5. If he were to take 2 wounds, I could press number 3 on the keypad, and that would go down to 3. The last thing that comes into play sometimes is maybe we are both using Titus. So if my opponent also has a Titus and we want to be able to better differentiate those, I may want to tint my pieces. So if I get these set up here, now I can select all of these, right click with my mouse button, go to tint, and I can select a tint. And so one thing that I always try to do when I'm doing this is I want to get kind of a medium to lighter color, and I try and avoid the blue, red, green, and yellow so that it doesn't get confused with something else. So I really like using purple, or orange is another good highlight color. So I'm going to grab this purple, I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. And now you can see that these are tinted just a little bit, so it's going to be a little easier to tell those apart from my opponent. We've got boons and blights, so say I get a protection boon, I can left click to pull this out of this bag. And now I've got a protection boon that I can give to one of my champions. Boons and blights live in the same bag, so just like cards, I can use the F key to flip those over between blight and boon. Other than that, all of the pieces behave just like you would normally expect them to. We've got this handy phase indicator that flips with that same F. We've got the ability to track the battle ladder. F also flips these tokens if we want to change who's between first and second person. And that's pretty much all that you need to know to dive in and get started with your very first game on Tabletop Simulator. So really quick, as a controls review, for that camera panning, we have the WASD keys or holding down the middle mouse button and moving the mouse. For that camera angle, we have up, down, left, right, or holding down the right mouse button and moving the mouse. Oh, one thing that I forgot here is the camera reset. So let's actually talk about that. I'm going to switch back over. So one of the things that you might have noticed is after I kind of got my camera in a weird spot, I was able to snap right back to the default location. That snapback is going to be the space button, spacebar button. And we can actually reset this. So one of the things that I'll often do is I'll get the camera kind of just how I like it. So, maybe something closer to, or actually maybe I want to go this way so I can see the dice. And now I'm in a good spot. So if I hold down Control and press 0, this is going to save my camera state. So now if I get out to somewhere else and I press spacebar, rather than being in that original default state, now it's in that default state for where I want it for my game. That's really handy, particularly if I'm on the other side of the table and I want to be able to use that spacebar. Because if I use the spacebar now, it's going to switch me all the way to be viewing it from the other player. But if I Control 0 and reset it here, now whenever I want to reset it, it's going to reset right here onto this side of the table. So that goes through the camera reset spacebar. Setting where that reset position is Control 0. For rotating a picked up item, something that we've clicked with the left mouse button, is Q and E. Locking and unlocking is the L key. Rolling dice or shuffling cards is R. Showing any cards is Alt for the front or Shift Alt for the back. Again, if you're on Mac, that's Option or Shift Option. And then flipping any items is going to be with an F. All these controls will be in the video description, and I hope they are helpful for you. So a couple shout outs. As always, the community Discord, great place to chat, look for games, get into strategy, find out, find local players. There's a great, looking for group or kind of meet the community channel. And Mighty Fine Pants just does amazing work in terms of supporting this, getting the new champions in, adding functionality that the community is coming up with. His plot and clash phase indicator was something that he added recently, and really appreciate all the work that he does to make it possible for us to play Godtear remotely. So as a wrap up, if you have any other favorite tabletop simulator tips or tricks, let me know in the comments. And as always, help with the algorithm, like and subscribe, helps other people find my content. And until next time, have fun and roll well. Bye guys.